Okay, welcome my friends to this little tutorial on doing an art project with fireworks. So what I have here is I've got 5 different projects that a former student of mine, Jill, did a few years ago. But she was just a really good artist, and she had a great eye for and a great skill for being able to draw stuff in the computer. So what she did is she just played around with a brush tool. And there's lots of different options for the brush tool, so I'm just going to click into one of them. And this is one that's called soft lines. So she gives you down here like how to get to the brush tool, go to basic, soft line. I'll show you that later in the video. But she also gives you a few tips for each one of the different styles that you can do. And what Jill was really good at it was she wasn't trying to recreate the original drawing that she was using, because typically she would find a picture and draw, but she would just kind of make her own version of it. And she just had a real good intuition, and so she gives you some good tips. So look around at some of those. Some she gives you more than others. The oil one was really amazing, and she's got like 4 different tips here. But starting with this original picture with lots of different colors and shapes, and she just kind of made her own version of it. So what I want you to think of is, as we work through this, first these 2 quotes for you, right? These are important to keep in mind. There is no must in art, because art is free. So in other words, you don't have to use the same colors, you don't have to do, there's no must at all. You do what you think looks good and what feels right to you. And then the other thing is, please keep in mind, every artist was first an amateur. So don't expect your art to be amazing. So that being said, let me give you 3 little tips and 3 little things to help you get started. Number 1 tip is patience. Be patient, take your time. Generally, I found in my, because I'm not a very good artist at all, but when I do try to draw something, if I just slow things down a little bit, take my time, I generally will have much better results than trying to get through it real quick. Number 2 I'd like to show you is a good example from Alyssa Butler. I think if you start, so you notice with both of her drawings, she started with a simple version. She didn't go out and just find a real life rose or a real life bird to draw. She started with one that's already been abstracted. It's been simplified down, and she used that as her model. I think that can help a lot, rather than trying to start with a real life one. Or here's another one that John did, Murdoch, from a while ago. He did start with a real life whale, but it wasn't too close up. It was kind of far away. So by having to look a little bit of a wider shot on the whale, he wasn't worried about all the little texture, and even the lighting he didn't worry too much about. He just tried to get the general shape. He used the oil bristle to do this and did a real nice job of capturing the water, and you kind of get the overall feel of the picture without even attempting to try to make it perfect. So both of these were nice ones where we just didn't get too caught up in the details. Now, what I would like to show you is, so first step, say I want to draw a picture of a squirrel. If you just type squirrel in Google, you're going to get pictures of real squirrels. And this is going to be challenging because you have all this texture to it, all these different colors, thousands and thousands of different colors, so it can be a little overwhelming. But if you type in, how about drawing squirrel easy or something like that for whatever it is that you want to draw, now all of a sudden your starting point becomes a lot better. And you can even see some people will give you little tips how to draw the squirrel step by step, taking your time. That can be really helpful. So that's tip number 2, is be mindful of what you search for. And tip number 3, let me show you that one. I am going to start a new file. I'm just going to make mine 450 by 525. You can make yours whatever size you want. Now, tip number 3 is, well, this isn't a tip, this is just do it. I would turn the grid on. So if you forgot how to do that, just go here, show grid. By having the grid, that will help you kind of guide you along. And then what I'm going to do here is I made one more link for you. Oh, actually, I think I lost it. I'll have to get it up later, but I'll put a link on for you. I found a real nice webpage where someone gives some excellent tips on how to draw better. And the number 1 tip that I thought would be helpful for you was, they say, don't try to draw big, long lines all at once. If you have a long line to draw, you break it up by making little lines, almost like little dash lines. And by doing that, you generally will have much more control, because normally what you'll find out is, let's just, for example, I'm going to use my brush tool, So this is what this project, the whole thing is using the brush tool. If you want to try the pencil tool, try it and you'll see how terrible it comes out. It's very hard to control the pencil. It just looks terrible. But using the brush, it just smooths things out a little bit. And then what we're playing with in this one is this right here, the setting. Look at all these different ones you have. Your basic, your airbrush, calligraphy, charcoal, all sorts of them. Unnatural. There's where that chameleon was. That was one of the examples from the video or from the tutorial. So I'm just, for this purposes, I'm just going to use charcoal creamy, all right? Now, let's say if you want to draw just like a circle. If you just try to freehand it, like draw all at once, it may come out kind of like, it's not terrible, it's not too bad, but by drawing it all at once, you can kind of get lost along the way. Now, if instead you draw that circle by doing little dash lines, and especially with the grid, you could kind of use that grid as a little guide. So like now I've kind of established the quarter mark. I can keep going down. I can kind of pause. I kind of missed that a little bit. But I just take my time a little bit more, and I don't feel as like rushed, and I'm not as like worried about making sure it ends perfectly, even though I did during the video. My left side was a little better than my right, but you can take your time more by doing those little dash lines, drawing little lines along the way. The smaller your lines, the better it'll be. And then you could go back, and then using a different color maybe, or using a different brush, you could start to connect the dots better. And by doing that, I feel like you'll probably have a lot more success. Your drawing will just look a little bit better. So those are my 3 tips. Patience, number 1. Number 2, use your original model, whatever it is. Use a simple model probably rather than a real life photograph. Unless you want to challenge yourself, you can always do that. And then thirdly is try to break your drawing up into, if you're going to draw one big line like this, the squirrel's back, you could draw that with little strokes first to kind of get the general shape, and then go back in later, and then you could fill it in. So there's your tips. Have some fun with this. Take your time. And by all means, if you really want to get deeper into it, I will provide that link to that website I was telling you about, where they give some really good tips, more than just this one about breaking up lines, long lines into small lines. And so you could explore that, take a couple days with it if you'd like to. And we'll just see how they come out. And I'm sure that they'll all be very good. Just draw with your heart, draw with your attention, focus.